Not enough nonsense in your life? Need a little more? Well, get ready, because these two have it in spades. Loose talk.
What are you talking about? Nonsense.
Even looser opinions.
Please explain.
And you're along for the ride.
Everybody strap in!
This is The Burble with Benny and Az.
Hello, welcome back to The Burble. It is Benny here.
Az is here.
And we're here for another big week of nonsense, absolute nonsense that happens around this globe. And it is round, flat earthers, by the way. Yeah, all the other planets around, you don't deny that. But when it comes to Earth...
They've got members all over the globe, Benny.
They've got members all over the globe. Just think about that for a second. Nonsense. We find the absolute best of nonsense and bring it to you. It is The Burble. It is great to have your company. You can find us in many, many places. Theburble.com.au is our website. It's looking a little sparse because we haven't been there for a little while, but we're going to try and get some photos up. Once this new studio is finished and all that kind of thing, we'll get that all organised. Now, you can find us on Apple iTunes. We love you to subscribe there at Apple iTunes. Leave a review as well. We would love that. If you don't like what I say, if you don't like what Az says, then leave a negative one if you want. That's okay, but we've had no negative ones, Az.
No, we're not negative.
We're the voice. We're saying the things that people want to say.
We slap our foreheads so you don't have to.
Now, you can also get us on Spotify, iHeartRadio as well. We are there. Now, there's a whole bunch of other places you can find us. We're
Spreaker.
on Spreaker as well. Get the Spreaker app. I highly recommend you to download Spreaker. It's got a whole ton of great podcasts, including this one. And we'll talk about other methods where you can find us and all that kind of thing coming up very, very soon. We are toying with the idea of having a Patreon, of course, because we want to improve this podcast and other podcasts that Burble Podcast Productions will be doing coming out of this studio.
And we like money.
Yeah, but it's all going to go back into the actual program itself, the podcast and all that kind of thing. All right, what are we talking about this week? In no particular order, as you brought this to the table. Perth School has had to ban kids from sack tapping each other.
What's the world coming to when you can't give your bro a sack tap?
Yeah, flicked in the nuts. What about this? This is one of the strangest things I've ever actually heard of. There's a restaurant sign that asks customers not to presume the gender of their staff.
Okay.
So restaurant is making the unusual request of customers, and it's actually gone viral with some slamming it, others saying there's nothing wrong with it.
Well, at least the sign doesn't say, please don't presume the race of the meat that you're going to eat.
An admin worker who's 22 has quit her job to eat takeaway on YouTube. So what do they call them? Feeders or
feeders, eaters, big people.
People send suggestions to them, and then she just chows down on it. She used to be thin; she's now quite portly.
Well, eating takeaway on YouTube. I mean, like, why go the sexy ladies? Like, why don't just get like finely chiseled Australian men like me and you just to sit on YouTube and eat burgers all day? We've already got the background. We've got the the build.
Yeah,
of the fat bastard.
We can do that. John McAfee. One of the biggest selling antivirus programs in the world. He is the owner and the inventor of McAfee. He
doesn't own it anymore.
Oh, doesn't he?
No.
All right. Well, John McAfee, he's actually wanted.
Yeah.
And he flaunts around in regards to having weapons and drugs and women and all that.
He's a loose cannon.
He's a very loose cannon. Anyway, not only does he kill viruses, but apparently he kills people.
Yeah, he does.
Another gender reveal celebrations ended in tears as...
are we just going to turn this podcast into how people up gender reveals?
Yeah, exactly.
We should niche, because apparently everyone's doing gender reveals.
So we're going to do a gender reveal podcast only?
Well, just every week. It's welcome to the Burble. We've got 6 different gender reveals that have gone horribly wrong. And thanks for your time.
Quilty the cat's locked up in solitary confinement because he keeps letting other animals out of their shelter cages. This cat is doing that. Also, another thing, that if we don't get to all of this stuff, we're going to try to at least. Internet's not working quite well here in the studio, which is annoying the piss out of me. But university students are climbing into their own makeshift graves to relax as.
Oh, well, that's probably where their degrees are going to get them, so,
Probably.
Yeah.
paying back those loans as well. Like,
Yeah,
you may
yeah.
as well just go and lay in a grave because you're not going to pay that back. France have shut down a whole bunch of beaches because there's kilos and kilos of cocaine washing up on the beaches. Remember we talked about, I think it might have been last season, the Garfield
phones
The Garfield
kept
cat
washing up.
phones.
This is much more appealing, I think, to a wider audience, realistically, isn't it?
It is.
Come for the scenery, stay for the kilo block of fine China white.
And speaking of fine China white, more people in their 90s are being admitted to hospital after taking cocaine.
You've had a pretty good innings at 90, haven't you? Get into it.
I'd be questioning their choice of outings, though, because they've gone to the French seaside and all of a sudden
Come back.
come back with a bit of coke. That's all coming up on the Burble.
This is gonna be good.
With Benny and Az.
Before we start poking fun at the nonsense that happens around the world there, we get into our first story. I firstly want to acknowledge all the hardworking fireys and all of those people who have their homes in danger. Those have lost their homes. Some have had loved ones lost in these terrible fires that are happening in Australia at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. These blokes are heroes, pure and simple.
Yeah,
And,
exactly
and
right.
we need more of you. Your blood's worth bottling. What can we really say other than you guys are legends?
If you're listening to this overseas, I've got to tell you that it is catastrophic here in Australia at the moment. Not a drop of rain has fell pretty much anywhere in Australia, and we're basically a bush country with a lot of fuel that's been built up, and
Now on fire.
it's just basically all on fire. There's so many out-of-control fires at the moment, so we do take our hats off to all the fireys there. And if you've got something to do with helping people out, or if you can help out money-wise, or, if it's helping out at evacuation centres or, clothing, food, anything like that.
at all.
So we really do take our hat off to you.
Give
because-
yourselves a pat on the back, boys.
all right, let's move in now to a little bit of nonsense once we've acknowledged that. Now, every single bloke that's gone to school or otherwise, or has been around a group of blokes, knows exactly what a sack tap is. Now, I've done a couple to you over the years.
Yeah. There's been sack taps.
What's a sack tap as?
So it's a thing that I think blokes are born knowing how to do.
Yep.
It's a very, very particular attack on the testicles of another male, and it's
When they're
usually
not suspecting it.
out of the blue.
Out of the blue.
Out of the blue. So you got a bloke, you might be out the back in the barbecue, standing around,
Yep.
beer in hand,
Yep.
talking shit.
Yep.
And then, someone will just walk past and in
As
the
a
nuts. Like just that Indiana Jones whip.
Yep.
But you can't just belt it. It's not like a punch or a flick. It's
It doesn't need to be.
You've got to do and I know you can't see us, but it's the backwards hand.
Yep.
You got to pimp hand the nut. You can't just go in hard and fast. You've got to pimp hand, and realistically, the best sack tap is the tips of your two fingers, your index finger and your ring finger. Just when you click your fingers and you get that nice. You've just got to go.
Well, when I do it, I use my middle finger because it's the middle of the hand.
Yeah. You just want that lightest of taps just to disturb the nut.
And the reason why it's done is because
we're blokes.
every bloke knows that pain because at some point they've had their own injury, so to speak, with their own sack tap. They may have inadvertently done it themselves to themselves.
Yeah, look, I think every bloke's at least once nutted himself on something.
It's been a problem, though, at a Perth private school. Trinity College have banned their Year 7s from doing it to each other.
Oh, no.
Now, had you not heard that preamble, that would have sounded quite, what the are you talking about? But apparently it was a difficult conversation to have with 180 13-year-old boys.
Giggling their asses off.
Look, that conversation was had by the staff there to the boys in a special sort of assembly away from other years. Now, listen, the head of Year 7 has spoken to the West Australian newspaper and basically said it was my job to make it clear that any further reports of such behaviour will result in serious sanctions for the offenders. Now, luckily, 13-year-old boys are well known for happily adhering to the rules when they've been told not to do something.
Of course.
Bullshit. Bullshit. So this sack ban, this sack tap ban shouldn't be a problem.
Sack ban.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a problem for the school to enforce. Yeah, we didn't at home. We went to the same school in the same year.
Yep.
Did they Did they at any point pull us aside and go, now, lads, you got to stop doing this? They didn't do that to us about anything.
No, they knew that they
Do you
couldn't.
remember? I remember this because you got in trouble for it and I wasn't at school that day. So
Oh, this will be good.
do you remember the little bits of wire with the two caps on the end and that were taped up?
Oh, yes.
The little throwdown.
Yeah, we made like little cap gun cap things.
Yeah, and you throw them on the ground, they just
They go
went bang.
psh, yep.
So it hit the ground, the wire had hit it,
And it just pop.
and pop. But we were making those up. Like I was cutting up coat hangers left, right, and centre.
Yeah, we all were. It was the in thing.
It was the in thing
It was
to
the
do.
fidget spinners of 1991.
Explosions.
Yeah, fire and bangs and
So
explosions.
there was something happening, and there was an assembly that had to happen in Courtyard 1. The gym wasn't being used. Oh, no, maybe it was being used for HSC. That's the only time that the gym would have been used for HSC, for exams, because all other exams happened in a unit at school, and they used to block off the unit because exams were on.
Oh, yes.
Remember that?
You had to go the long way round.
Yeah. But anyway, I think it was you and another couple of blokes all got done for them, and you had them in your pockets and stuff.
Yeah, we were pretty much.
You were sternly spoken to
Yes,
by
we were.
the
We
principal.
had our ammunition
Yeah.
confiscated.
Yes, the ammunition was confiscated. I remember there's one guy, I think his name was Gareth. Remember him?
Oh, vaguely, yeah.
Yeah, and I think he was the one who was the ringleader in that. But so
Yeah.
what happened when you got in trouble? Did you go down and get a sack tap from the
No.
principal?
This wasn't a Catholic school,
No. Well,
so there was no touching of sacks.
no, but you could get away with a hell of a lot more.
Well, yeah, it was a much simpler and better place in the 90s. Like a sack tap was okay.
No, it wasn't. I remember walking down the hallway one day, and a friend of ours who's now married and lives in Ireland, who was in our year. You went to primary school with him. Just walked along and then just decided to punch me in the balls for no reason, just
It
to
was
see
none
the
of this
reaction.
tapping. It was a punch.
Oh no, it was a full-on
Yeah,
low
we used
punch.
to just belt each other.
And I was in conversation with somebody else, and then he just dropped me, and it's the worst pain. Ladies, you have no idea.
Well, so here's the thing.
You have no idea.
Here's the thing about getting smacked in the nuts, right? Obviously, it's more painful than childbirth.
Oh yeah. Well,
And
sure.
look,
I'm gonna-
science
I'm gonna
backs me
back
up
away
on this.
I'm going to back away from that.
Science will back me up on this,
Righto.
right? Okay, so if we look at a scale of how painful something is to versus how much you want it to happen to you again, right? If I was to say to you, Benny,
Yeah.
would you like to be sack tapped or punched in the nuts again? What would you say?
No.
Okay, now go to one of our lovely ladies out there and say, would you like to have another child? A lot of them will go, yeah. So obviously, it's not as painful.
Where are you going with this?
I've been and gone.
You have been and gone, but there's no way in the world that you want that to like
Exactly.
Hang
So
on, wait.
You would never want to be sack tapped again.
I'm a portly gent, okay?
Yeah.
Well, not all of me, like just the beer gut, right? But there are some points there where I might get into an absolutely uncomfortable position on the couch watching my favourite sport. People are over there, and then you go to move to get up and all that kind of thing, and then all of a sudden the bag shifts and it gets squashed.
You squash a nut.
Yeah, underneath your thigh. Or you might push them together, and then all of a sudden it's just like, and you go, oh,
And then suddenly it's the end of the crying game.
it is. And then and then people go, what's wrong with you? And you go, oh, just be back. And then you wince off into another room, and you're like, fucking nuts.
Yeah, exactly. So,
It's an accidental sack tapping.
Yeah.
You do it to yourself all the time.
well, I have sack awareness, so
There should be a sack awareness.
like a video.
No, a society. Yeah, well, yeah, we could do like have support groups and like a call center,
24-hour hotline.
24-hour hotlines. Like, oh,
Like little information packs.
Yeah,
Website.
Website, yep. Little stickers. We'll make rulers and pens for the young.
No,
senators.
don't make rulers because they're going to be used to sack tap.
Do you know
Did you
what?
ever cop a metal ruler to the NAD
No.
in school?
No.
Now, that was painful.
Do you remember, though, that they tried to ban the metal rulers?
Yes.
And we'll finish this one up. They tried to ban the metal rulers, especially private schools, because what the private school boys were doing is they were taking their tie off, sliding the metal ruler inside the fat part of the tie,
Right.
and then they would use that as a flick. And that'd be the
Ooh.
sack. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a weapon.
Yeah.
That's like even worse than a wet tea towel. And if you've ever copped a wet tea towel to the nut, no.
But then again, though, there's other clandestine uses for such things happening at privates, especially boys. They get vicious at private. They do. Like even talking about Trinity College here, they're year sevens. we shouldn't even be saying this now, but we could get done for weapons of mass destruction with a private school boy's tie and a metal ruler. And then all of a sudden, we've got all these boys that can't procreate.
Well, what?
We're basically turning the clock's back on procreation in this country because there'll be so many 13-year-old useless sacks around.